to another edition of the Fats Cafe Coach's Corner here at Fats Cafe. I'm Nick Terry, filling in for Caitlin Grasillo, joined by USC Aiken women's head basketball coach Mike Brandt. How's it going, Coach?
Going pretty well. Can't
Okay.
complain.
All right, well, that's great. To start off, I guess we'll go back to last weekend and kind of recap the two games against South Atlantic foes. You opened with a close loss to Carson Newman. What did you see in that matchup?
Well, I knew they would be a good team, and I told our team that we'd have a difficult time of beating them, and because I felt that we just weren't really practicing as well as we should have been, and I'll take the blame on that. For whatever reason, I haven't been able to get out of them what I feel that they need to be putting out and putting forth, and so that was a tough game. They were a good, talented team, execute really well, and just kind of outfought us. And then the next night against Lincoln Memorial, I think we played so much better. We improved a lot, and that's something we talked about, is that we don't have time to practice, and so it's just going to be a lot of mental things, improving from one game to another without any practice, and I was very happy the way they responded with that. We played a lot tougher, a lot better than the night before, and we still, obviously the first part of the year here, we're going to have a lot of things to work on, but I think we improved a lot in one game there from Friday night to Saturday, so I was pleased with it, and Fortunately, we were lucky enough to get a win there, at the buzzer, and come out of there 1-1. And Carson Newman, that's good for them to get 2 wins on the road, one at home and one on neutral floor. I was kind of surprised that they did beat Lander by 10 or 11, but it was good for them. But it was fortunate for us to get a split for sure. Okay,
and you mentioned the late game theatrics with Emory, the buzzer beater. What did you see in that play? What did you like about being able to win like that?
I liked that she made the shot. I liked that she got the shot. But we did a good job. That's just our fist play that we run a lot of times. We've run it many times, and basically it's not set up for anybody. There's a lot of different options for it. Our point guard, Stephanie, did a great job of finding what it was and what they gave us, and she penetrated and took it and was very calm and ended up penetrating a little bit. Post player helped out, slipped it to Emory. She got an open shot inside the lane and knocked it down. So I was happy for the way they executed and got a good shot.
Okay. And in those 2 games, you had a freshman kind of step up in her first live action with Bailey. What have you seen at her so far, and what have you liked?
I really like the way Bailey competes. I think that she kind of is very competitive, and she plays with no fear. She's not afraid to shoot it, look at the basket, and that's a good problem to have. She's taken some bad shots, but she's a freshman. She's going to learn that. It's a lot easier to tone somebody down than it is to somebody, hey, you got to shoot that shot, you got to shoot it. So I'm happy with that she's aggressive offensively. And then she does a great job defensively. She's working not so much in the position and not quite down and low and working as hard as we want her to, but like I said, she's a very good competitor, and that's why she was in there and able to do some things. And as a freshman, she's going to get nothing but better. So that's exciting.
Okay. Now, another player who's, I guess, kind of stepped up from last year would be Alexis Ware. What change have you seen in her so far?
Well, Alexis has done a good job, and she's been a good player, but she's one of those that has been kind of tentative, and not really looking to score very much. She's our scorer. She's a great shooter. She can take a one dribble pull up and hit the shot. So that's something that we're expecting her to do. Even in practice tonight, we had to get on her because, she didn't shoot a shot or at least look at it. And one time was kind of funny because we got her the ball and she kind of reversed it right away without even looking at it. And she screamed, "Ah!" At least she recognized that, hey, I'm supposed to look at the shot and look for it, may possibly shoot it. So that's going to be a work in progress. But she's doing a great job, and she was kind of a player that I look forward to this season to come out and have a breakout year, and I think she's going to do that. She's working hard, and she's getting better, and that confidence factor is starting to come in play too.
Okay, and if that play can continue with her, what does that add to your team when you can add her contributions?
Well, it's just another player for us, especially a shooter. Shooters are hard to come by, and a lot of people can shoot the ball, but not all of them make it. And so it's important that get a high percentage, and she brings that for us. I think that she's going to do a great job of that, the shooting the 3, and then also, like I said, if people run out at her, she has a nice little one dribble pull-up jump shot too. So she's, got some different options when she's playing, and then she's also able to drive to the basket some. So I just think she's going to bring a lot to the game through our team being able to score on the offensive end, and we're just going to continue to have her keep working on the defensive end, and she's getting better at that, and she'll be productive down there too.
Okay, and this year's team, the roster features a good bit of seniors. What are you looking for, out of those veterans?
And that's probably why I was disappointed, why I felt that we weren't really prepared to beat Carson Newman, because with that many seniors, we needed to be better. We needed to be farther ahead than what we were. And so I thought that was going to be a disadvantage for us. Now, the other team that we played, Carson Newman, was a very young team. I think they had everybody back from last year. But I felt that we should have been farther ahead because of our seniors and the leadership necessary, and not only in the games but also in practices. And I talked to our team about that. That we continue to have to go over things that we've gone over time and time again. And I said, good teams that we've had here in the past and championship teams, I said, we don't even work on that stuff. I said, because that's taught by player to player. You're communicating like it's a little thing like blocking out. If somebody doesn't block out, another player needs to say, hey, block out, or shot call and block out every time. Just little things that the team can coach while we're out there, so the coaches can focus on some other things besides those basic fundamentals. And I felt the team has responded well to that, and they're beginning to communicate a little better, and their expectations and practices are a little bit higher than what they were, and so that's a step in the right direction.
Okay. And then with the makeup of your roster in general, it's a good mix of each class. What do you like about this year's roster?
Well, I'm starting to like it more, but I really want that competitiveness, and I really want people to work hard. And there were a couple players that did not play very many minutes on Saturday night that are capable of being starters for us. Okay, and eventually, if they decide to get after it on the defensive end and get healthy and start working as a unit, they will be starters for us. Okay, but in the meantime, they're not at that level yet, and some other players are filling in, and they're doing pretty well. So eventually, when those players get in there and get with it and do what they're supposed to do, they're good enough to start, and that's going to bump a couple other people down. But the people that get bumped down are going to be so much better because of the experience they've had in game situations and the quality minutes that they've had early in the year, that's just going to make us a much better team. So I really feel that, looking down the roster, we have a lot of depth. And, you can't play 14 players in a game usually in a tight game, but what you can do is you can have players pushing each other, competing for spots, competing for starting spots, competing for playing time. And then the more they compete, the better your team's going to be. And then, unfortunately, injuries is a part of the game, but if somebody does go down, then you've got the next person up there that should be ready to go to step in and not lose a beat.
Okay. And I guess if we could fast forward to this coming weekend, what are you looking at with some of those matchups?
Well, Wingate's going to be tough. That's a good team. I've seen them in the scrimmage this year. They have a 6'4" player that transferred in from UTEP that takes up a lot of space in the lane, and she's just not a big player. She's a big body, but a good player. She's very skilled. If she gets it to block, I think she can pivot right, she can pivot left and score, so she's going to be difficult for us. The other thing is they're a very good executing team. They run good offense. They execute well, set good screens. So we need to make sure that we continue to keep working on our defense and our pressure defense to try and get them out of the comfort zone. But I think that'll be a very tough game. And then Queens, in the first game, I think they got beat pretty bad. In the second one, they won against what looked like a pretty good team there. So the first year is kind of tough because you've played one or two games and you don't know how good you are. You don't know how good the other teams are. So we'll just have to make sure that we're prepared for that. And Wingate will be their first regular season game, so they've been primed and ready to go after their exhibitions just for USC Aiken. And I'm sure they've got ability to get the game films from this weekend, so they'll be able to really get a good scout on us and be ready for us. So it'll be extremely tough, very competitive. They're a good team. They've been in the NCAAs the last couple of years, and I'm sure they want to go back there again this year. But those are the types of teams that we love to play and see where we're at and see how we compete with them.
Okay. And, one change that's been introduced to the women's game this year is instead of 2 halves, we're playing 4 quarters now. What kind of difference has that made? What's that like, versus playing 2 halves?
Well, I think, the timing of it's the same amount of time. And so it doesn't make a whole lot of difference in that. What has changed is there's 2 additional times to get the last shot in the quarter, which is important. And that's one of our goals, is to try and get the last shot of every quarter or every half. And so that's something that we have to think about. I think that the game has changed in that there's not as many media timeouts or timeouts, and so you have to be in a better condition. The recent rules of 16, 12, 8, and 4 for timeouts, you knew those were coming. You knew you could go hard for 4 minutes or maybe longer if the whistle doesn't blow, and then you'd have a long timeout.
Right.
With this instance here, you can have somebody call a timeout, a second into the quarter, which probably won't happen, but it could, and then you don't have another media timeout, so you could play 9 full minutes unless somebody calls a timeout. There's not very many timeouts called because with the rule change of being able to advance the ball up from to the 28-foot line in the last minute, coaches really want to save their timeouts. So you want to save 2 timeouts if you can, so then you only have 2 other timeouts. So I think conditioning is very important throughout the year because there are going to be longer spans where they have to play. And then it is exciting. I know Lander in their game, they called timeout and advanced the ball up like the NBA does, hit a shot to tie it, and then they called timeout again, advanced it up, hit a shot to win it in the last minute. So I'm sure they're loving the rule right now. Lincoln Memorial probably doesn't like it, but it does bring about some excitement, and there are some changes, and strategically you kind of have to look at that. And I don't think you'll see as many players calling timeout when they dive for a loose ball on the floor, because if they call timeout, as a coach, I'm gonna get after them because they're just gonna be so important. But if you have a pretty good lead, 8 to 10 point lead, maybe late in the game there, and you dive on a loose ball, it'd be all right to call it. But if it's a close game, you want to have those timeouts for the end for sure.
Okay. And then I guess just looking at the season as a whole, what would you say is your goal coming into this year?
With this many returning players, our goals are pretty high. And we made the conference tournament last year. We made it to the semifinals, and then just had a poor showing against Columbus State. But Columbus State also, I feel that, and the coach agreed that they played their best game against us. And a combination of them playing good and us playing poorly. But they're really good. They're a very good team again. They're ranked in the top 6, I think, right now, and I'm sure they're going to keep winning and keep climbing up the polls there. So they're going to be the #1 team in the conference, being favored. But I told our players tonight after practice, if we keep improving and play pacer basketball like we have in prior years, we're going to have a chance because we play differently than they do. There's some certain things about our basketball program that we do differently, and we have to do those things differently. We have to do them correctly for us to have a chance, but it's going to be tough. But our goal, is like most teams' goals, is to be conference champions, and that's very difficult to do. But I think realistically we have a shot at it, and so that's why we'll continue to talk about it, continue to keep working. And if you win a conference, you're going to make the NCAA tournaments. It's just going to work out like that because of the strength of schedule. So obviously our goal is to win the conference and make the NCAA tournament, and then the key to that is getting in. It's as silly as it sounds, you can't win it if you don't get in, of course, but I think any of the 8 teams that get in our region will have an opportunity and have a chance to win the region and go to the Elite 8. So you got to get there before you can win it. But if we do get there, then I think that we'll have a shot as well as anybody else to get there.
Okay. Well, that'll about do it for today. Thanks for your time, Coach, and thanks again for joining us for another Fats Cafe Coach's Corner.